Hello, everyone. My name is Chidi Okudire, and I lead the technology practice at Prolecto Resources, Inc. I'm glad to be joined by my colleague Matthew Laporte, and we plan to walk you through a solution we've built to automate the process of deduplicating customers and related entities in NetSuite. So before we get started, do you mind introducing yourself so the audience knows who you are?
Sure. My name is Matthew Laporte. I've been with Prolecto for over 8 years now, and I'm currently manager in the operations practice on the business side. So I usually involves my tech colleagues to help me in my intention on solving problems for my clients, like the one
Right.
we're talking about today.
Right. And yeah, this is one where you and I collaborated closely. You understand the business very well, and you helped us understand it enough to translate it into technical requirements that produce a solution that is not just going to work for this client, but actually going to work for others in a similar situation. Maybe let's sketch a bit of what the business situation is and what the challenge is, because we know NetSuite has a deduplication module, but we couldn't use that for specific reasons. So what was this client challenged with, and why couldn't we use the native solution NetSuite offers?
So it's a very common concern for any of our clients who are essentially acquiring other businesses or
Correct.
just growing by purchasing customer list or whatnot to expand on their channels, right? So the whole idea is whenever you try to integrate an outside source of customers, you already have two options. Option one is before importing all of that data, you go ahead in Excel or whatnot and you try to clean up and or do the dedupe process ahead of time, right? So you'll look at your current list of accounts, you'll look at the account that you're about to import, you'll try to do some lookups and does it exist, yes or no? And if it doesn't exist, then you import it and so on. Honestly, nobody does that. Never seen a customer do that. It's just it sounds good, but it's not something we see often on the marketplace. What usually happen is we'll just push all the data in the system and we'll figure it out later.
Right.
And it's common.
And that's what this client in particular did. So they grew by buying other companies, and at some point now they ended up with a huge customer database with lots of duplicates. And then now it becomes hard to book transactions, run reports because there's just a lot of noise in the system. And you're saying this is not unique to them. We see this happening in more scenarios.
Bottom line is it creates confusion for everyone because if you ask about customer A, maybe there's five customer A, and which one are you talking about? So acquisition is a common source of problem. Another source of problem might be bad integration with CRM, for example. Depending on how strong your integration is, maybe your CRM integration keeps sometimes creating a new account when it shouldn't, when there's already one that exists, right? So those are maybe two main source of duplicate accounts that we encounter in NetSuite. For this specific client, it was from acquisitions, right? They made 4 or 5 acquisitions in the past 3, 4 years. Business is trying to scale, and now they hit a roadblock. Difficult to scale when nobody looks at the same data.
And so let's talk about NetSuite solution. NetSuite has an entity deduplication module inbuilt, but in this case, it didn't work. Can you shed light on why that's the reason? Or maybe just for those who are not familiar, maybe it's good to just show some of the screens so people understand what it offers out of the box. Thank you.
The first question is, are you in OneWorld or not?
Okay.
For this client, they are in OneWorld. It complicates things a little bit, especially on the contact side. There is a little checkbox in the screen on the setup duplication detection, which is to detect accounts, which is really customers and vendors across multiple subsidiaries. What the NetSuite doesn't say is contacts cannot be merged across subs. So that's a major red flag.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you're not in OneWorld, the native approach works, but it's not scalable. And it all depends on how many accounts we're talking, right? Are we talking about a few dozen accounts? Or are we talking about thousands of accounts? For this client, it was about thousands of accounts across 4 subs.
Okay.
Native approach was not even able to capture everything. On for a smaller dedupe project, you can set up how NetSuite can find those duplicate based on those lists. Is it just on name, on domain, and so on? And when there's a match, what NetSuite does is it throws that little banner that says, oh, here I find a possible duplicate.
Right.
And you can always just use NetSuite native to go and dedupe and pick who's the master. You also have that page, manage customer duplicates, that shows all of the customers that are flagged as possible duplicate. But if you were to process this, you need to click and click and click and click and click. It's not, again, for a dozen or so accounts, it's possible. For thousands, it's just, it's not scalable.
So that's a very good point to call out here. While we have this screen, one of the things we know is that we can script this screen, so we can automatically bulk select or even export it in a decent way to process out in CSV and upload back. So while this screen is there, it's really geared towards a few handful of accounts if you want to merge by hand. But as soon as the volume gets large enough, then the effort to do it just somewhat outweighs the benefits. And so we need a different approach. And the good thing is there is a way, which is why we're recording this. We solved this problem for the client and they're very happy. So let's talk a bit about the solution and what it entails, Mathieu.
The major benefit, at least in my mind, from a customer standpoint, is you're in full control of defining your master account. You can figure out a way to build in a SQL statement or any way, just in Excel, however you want, but you're in full control of defining the master based on any factor you want. So this customer, they flag their master account as the one with the highest revenue.
Okay,
Not
right,
really possible. So the application we built allows you to essentially just extract all your customer database and manipulate the database and tell me only two things: who's the master and who's the duplicate. And
right,
that's really all we need to know. So
right.
you're in full control.
So it not just gives us an easy way to trigger the process, it gives us flexibility in terms of what the criteria are for determining which entities to merge and which one wins at the end of the day, which one remains in the system. Okay, that's great. It looks like what you're showing here is these are the steps that the solution goes through. Do you want to walk us through this briefly?
Sure. So there are logical sequence we need to go through to do this effectively. Okay. First one, like I said, is here's a database full of duplicates,
Right,
and those accounts also have child entities, addresses, contacts, sub-customers, or I think we're at a point of also saying any kind of child records under that custom entities could also be moved right to the new masters. So all in all, saying you have a database full of duplicates, and like I said, the only thing that our module need is a little file of a master pointing to their duplicates.
right,
Or if you think of it the opposite way, duplicates pointing to their master, really, is the right way to think about it.
right,
So that's the before duplication process, just getting ready, get the file ready, and as soon as you're ready, then you push it in the system. Now, the first step that needs to take place is we need to move all the contacts under the master account.
okay. And why is
Um,
that so?
it's just the way that the NetSuite process allows us to do this in the right sequence. We found that moving contacts first was the easiest way because what you do is you grab essentially all the contacts from duplicate accounts, you move them all over the master account, and then we automatically run a dedupe of contacts at that point in time because NetSuite doesn't allow for duplicate contact under the same account. So we feed them with the little delimiter to be unique for a very short period of time. And
Right,
then we dedupe based on contact name or again, any factor or any delineation of what a duplicate contact is. It's all again controlled via our system. We then dedupe contacts automatically.
right.
Make sense?
Yes, yes. And just maybe to shed some light, technically, too, one of the things we saw was if we didn't do this upfront, NetSuite would, if there were two contacts under the duplicate of the master that had the same ID, NetSuite would quietly merge them in advance if we didn't move them to the master. And so it means that if we had special logic wanted to apply, by the time we get to step three, where we're trying to merge contacts, NetSuite already went ahead and destroyed the duplicates. So by moving them all to the master, we preserve the original contact so that when we get to step three, we're able to apply our own custom logic to do the actual merge there.
Process number two is we start merging the customers. So now that the duplicate customers are essentially stripped of, you want to remove anything underneath. So addresses was one of them, contacts one of them, but it could be any child records, right? Anything
Right,
under duplicates, you want to move it out. So when you merge the customer together, you're not worrying about all those child records. They're all safe for a time period. So you
right,
can easily just merge the duplicate accounts into the master, and then you can take care of all this child records in whatever logic you want, right? So contacts, addresses, sub customers, all of that is processed after the fact. So then you get to a place where we have all those processors kicking in one after the other to get to a post process where you have that master account that's the only one living with a clean list of contacts that have been deduped, all of that leveraging NetSuite native dedupe function, and also a clean list of address that, well, there's no native way to merge address, so we essentially delete addresses when
right.
the same key is found that's fully controlled via our app setting. But you end up in a place where you have a single account, a clean list of addresses, and a clean list of contacts.
Okay, and we're going to walk through the process in a moment here. I just wanted to highlight something on the screen that we didn't talk about, that notion of snapshotting. And of course, before we talk about that, it's good to remember that when we deduplicate, NetSuite effectively deletes the duplicates and they're gone for good. It merges the data and the original duplicate records are gone forever. And so if something went wrong, you can reverse this process. And so that's where the recycle bin, which is another of Vector's accelerator templates, comes into being. Can you tell us some more about it?
About the recycle bin, what we found out was the merge action does not trigger a delete flag, or how NetSuite calls it. So if you were to look at all of your deleted records,
Right,
you will never be able to find those customers because the right terminology of what happened is they got merged, and merge is not delete,
right,
and thus you'll never find that anywhere. So the recycle bin is aware of that flaw in some respect in NetSuite, and what it does is it takes a snapshot of the customer before the merge. So we have a backup if you need to ever retrieve any field on the account. It
right.
stores just as a big JSON.
And so this is something we could do on the customer, on the contact, or effectively any record we can deploy a script to. We can always call this recycle bin to take a snapshot before the process as a way to roll back. It's not going to automatically roll back, but it gives us the state of the record before it got merged so that if we wanted to do anything, we have the data. So that's great. Why don't we just do a live demo? I think it would be good to see this in action and appreciate what's happening.
Okay, so what happened is I uploaded my file. The process found the file, kicked off the job to process it. And the first thing that happens is we have control record that essentially logs every single record that are going through this process.
Okay.
The very first record that shows up is the one that we'll see here, that we see right here about the customer, because that's the request I'm making, right? I'm saying, here's my master record ID. Here are all the duplicate record IDs, and that comes from my file. Same thing. So it's a customer-based job, but we're not starting with customer dupe just yet because, like we said, we have multiple other processes to kick off ahead before we even attempt to merge customers.
Right.
If I refresh, now what happened is based on our flag of contact duplicates, we automatically find, okay, who are my duplicate contacts in my entire list of contacts in all the four accounts, and let's try to merge those. And that's the process that we're in right now. So
Right.
we are in the contact records, and the state machine is going so fast that I could refresh in the second and it change all the time. So it's just things are just
Right.
running
So it's
extremely
done the
fast.
snapshot, move things around, and it just keeps calling itself and going to the state machine until it gets to the point where the work is complete. And you're saying
Correct.
this just goes fast. Like we can see
It's
the
super
refreshing and
fast.
it's moving. Yeah.
See, all those are done already, all those contacts. And see, that's the delimiter I was talking about. So we push that little delimiter on the contacts, and when it's finished, we remove it
We
and we
remove
give
it.
it the final, the last, the real name. So
Right.
now if I just refresh, now all my contacts have been completed, and
Excellent.
actually the merge has also been finished already. So technically, everything is complete.
Excellent.
It took a minute-ish to merge three accounts. I can't see this. 14 contacts and dozens of addresses.
And if do you mind clicking the customer itself? I just want to highlight something there. So NetSuite has a tracking page because again, we're using the native tool, so we're not deduplicating on our own. So at the top there, you can see that native task status. We can always click through. NetSuite holds this table temporarily, so at some point it drops the table, but right after a few hours, you can actually click through and see what NetSuite did. So that means if there was an error because NetSuite failed to do the merge, we'll have that link and you can click through and see what the error is. Unfortunately, for some reason, NetSuite doesn't expose that data in the APIs. So the workaround was to create this dynamic link URL that points you to the page so you can go get that information. But again, if you waited for a few days, the link will stop working because NetSuite actively flushes this table, it looks like in the background. And
And
then,
before looking at the results, let's just
right,
look at the snapshots. Now, if I refresh my list of snapshot, I should see a new one. Okay, let me see if I have the new one.
I see a
Call
couple of them.
17, right? There
Yeah,
are three of them because there are three duplicates.
exactly.
So even though those don't exist anymore in the database, I still have some kind of backup if we ever have to go and find something. It's all stored in our recycle bin.
How is the client feeling about this? I know we've rolled this out production and they have so much data that it's taking a while to get through, but we are making good progress. And how have they experienced it so far, having a clean database finally?
Let's say that it's the kind of project that was sitting on the shelf for years now, and no one ever wanted to do because it's too hard to do manually, like we explained.
Right,
And now it's just that the entire business is excited about having a clean database. Just imagine from a AR perspective, you receive a check or a payment and you have four different accounts with the same name. How do you apply that check, right? Now you
right,
have only a single account. It's streamlined the entire business flow and also help ensure that the entire user base look at the same exact data.
right,
Obviously, this is to solve a problem. Doesn't mean that the source of the problem is fixed, right? If you have a bad integration, you'll still have possible duplicates being created. If you
right,
acquire a new business and you import your another list of accounts in NetSuite, you'll have the same problem. But the good news is our process can just be used constantly, and I'm sure we can also figure out a way to run it autonomously
right.
if we
In
needed
general,
to.
this would be a one-time thing, but you're saying if you don't solve the root cause of the problem, you would have to run this over and over. But the cost of getting your clean database is now much lower because you have a solution that either you automate or you just need to do this step of preparing the file. Once you get into the account, the combination of NetSuite's native features, so we're calling this via the API, and Prolecto Accelerator templates, in this case, the record import export manager and the recycle bin, just bring a solution to life that before now, the client had no way of imagining a solution that wouldn't take a lot of man hours. And now they can do this. They can get a clean database and they're happy. And we're happy because it's not just for them. We can roll this out to any client that has similar scenarios where they need to deduplicate in bulk and they need it automated. So very great. Thank you, Mathieu. It was great working with you on this project, and I look forward to continued collaboration. And I hope that our listeners will find this meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We hope you found these insights helpful. If you're ready to get more out of your NetSuite investment and unlock untapped potential in your business, start your journey with Prolecto. Contact us today.